Did you know that 82% of seniors who were financially exploited in relationships never saw the warning signs until it was too late? Even more shocking, the average financial loss in these situations exceeds $30,000 per victim. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Davis, and today I'm going to share a personal story that changed everything I thought I knew about dating after 60. This experience not only saved my retirement savings, but taught me crucial lessons about finding genuine connection in our golden years. At 65 years old, I found myself facing a challenge many of us never anticipated: starting over and looking for companionship after decades of marriage. You see, I retired 5 years ago after working as a high school math teacher for over 30 years. I've settled into a quiet 2-bedroom condo in sunny Florida, while my only daughter, Sarah, lives across the country in New York. My wife passed away 3 years ago, and since then, life has been peaceful, yes, but also profoundly lonely. The grieving process after losing my wife of 38 years wasn't linear. There were days when I could barely get out of bed, and others when I felt guilty for laughing or enjoying myself. My daughter constantly encouraged me to get back out there, but I wasn't ready. The very thought of dating seemed not just foreign, but almost disrespectful to the memory of my wife. Many of you might recognize this feeling, the strange guilt that comes with considering new relationships after loss. According to recent studies, over 40% of adults over 60 in America report feeling lonely regularly. And this loneliness isn't just emotionally painful, it's actually dangerous to our health. Researchers have found that chronic loneliness can be as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's a sobering thought, isn't it? When I learned this, it helped me reframe my thinking about seeking companionship. This wasn't just about finding someone to spend time with. It was about my health and well-being. Dating at our age comes with unique challenges that our younger selves never had consider. We bring with us decades of life experience, established financial situations, adult children with opinions, health considerations, and often deeply ingrained habits and routines. A 2023 survey found that 68% of singles over 60 ranked honesty about finances as their top concern when entering new relationships, higher than physical attraction or shared interests. After much contemplation, I decided it was time to look for companionship. Not necessarily marriage, but someone to share my days with, someone to laugh with over morning coffee, and discuss a good book with in the evening. I had spent much of my time gardening, reading, and volunteering at the local library. But there was always something missing, that human connection that gives life its richness. One day, my neighbor Linda, who manages our community events, suggested I meet Christine, a retired nurse who lived a few blocks away. Linda said Christine was also looking for companionship and thought we might have a lot in common. With her encouragement, I decided to reach out. After a brief phone conversation that went surprisingly well, we agreed to meet for coffee at a nearby cafe. As the day approached, I found myself unexpectedly nervous. Dating, or even the idea of it, felt foreign after so many years. What would we talk about? Should I bring a small gift? What should I wear? These questions might seem trivial to younger people, but for someone who'd been out of the dating world for nearly 4 decades, they loomed large. On the morning of our meeting, I went through my closet twice, finally settling on a crisp white shirt and a blazer I hadn't worn in years. I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, chose a seat by the window, ordered a cappuccino, and waited with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Christine arrived right on time. She walked in with an air of confidence, dressed elegantly in a light blue blouse and pearl earrings. Her warm smile immediately put me at ease as she approached. I stood to greet her, and we exchanged pleasantries before sitting down. The first part of our conversation flowed easily. Christine shared stories about her years as a nurse and her recent retirement. She spoke fondly of her son who had moved to Chicago for work and her love for cooking. In return, I talked about my teaching career, my daughter in New York, and my passion for gardening. We discovered shared experiences, our appreciation for quiet moments, and the challenges of adjusting to life after decades of structured work. For a while, the conversation felt effortless, and I found myself relaxing. But as our coffee meeting progressed, Christine's tone shifted, signaling a transition from casual pleasantries to a more serious discussion. She leaned forward, her expression softening but taking on a certain seriousness. She began by telling me how much she appreciated my openness and honesty, qualities she valued deeply. Then she explained that she had a few expectations for specific conditions for beginning a relationship. At first, I thought her candor was refreshing. After all, is it better to lay everything on the table than to dance around unspoken expectations? But as she detailed her first condition, my feelings began to change, and I realized I was about to learn some valuable lessons about dating at our age, lessons I'm now sharing with you. 4 warning signs and relationship demands. Christine's first condition caught me completely off guard. She proposed a 6-month trial period of living together, which in itself wasn't entirely unreasonable. Living together before making deeper commitments could help us learn more about each other and see if we were compatible. However, it was what came next that sent warning bells ringing in my mind. To move forward with this trial, she wanted me to deposit $20,000 into a shared account as a commitment deposit to demonstrate my sincerity. She explained that if the trial didn't work out, she would refund a portion of the money, prorated to the time we had lived together. As she spoke, I felt a wave of emotions, surprise, confusion, and even disappointment. It wasn't the amount itself, though $20,000 is certainly not a small sum. What troubled me was the principle of the request. It felt transactional, as if sincerity could be measured in dollar signs. This request represents warning sign number 1. Early financial commitment demands. Financial exploitation of seniors has reached epidemic proportions in America, with the National Council on Aging reporting that older adults lose an estimated $2.9 billion annually to scams and exploitation. Often, these don't begin as obvious scams, but as seemingly reasonable requests within the context of developing relationships. I've since learned that this type of financial test comes in many forms. Sometimes it's a request for help with an urgent bill. Other times it's an investment opportunity that can't wait, or in my case, a commitment deposit. What these all have in common is they occur too early in the relationship, before trust has been naturally established. Let me ask you this. Would you ask a new acquaintance to prove their trustworthiness by handing over a substantial sum of money? Of course not. Trust is earned through consistent behavior over time, not purchased up front. For us seniors who have spent decades building our retirement savings, protecting these assets isn't being stingy. It's being prudent. The appropriate response to such requests is a polite but firm explanation that you prefer to build trust organically over time before making significant financial commitments. A reasonable person will understand this boundary. If they become insistent or make you feel guilty for hesitating, that's an additional red flag. As Christine continued, she smoothly transitioned to her second condition, clearly confident in her vision of what a relationship should entail. She explained that one of her lifelong dreams had always been to visit Hawaii, a destination she had long associated with beauty, tranquility, and romance. This wasn't just any vacation. Christine envisioned a month-long getaway complete with professional photo shoot to commemorate the experience. She spoke with enthusiasm, describing sunset strolls on the beach, scenic helicopter tours over volcanoes, and candid snapshots capturing the start of what she hoped would be a new chapter for both of us. At first, I could appreciate the sentiment. A dream trip to Hawaii sounded lovely, and it wasn't lost on me how meaningful such an experience must be to her. But as she continued, her expectations became clearer and increasingly concerning. Christine expected me to cover all expenses for this month-long trip. She justified this by saying she'd ensure everything was meticulously planned, relieving me of any stress. "I'll handle all the arrangements," she promised. "From flights to accommodations, all you'll need to do is relax and enjoy." This represents warning sign number 2, extravagant spending expectations early in the relationship. A month in Hawaii with professional photography could easily cost $15,000 to $20,000, a significant portion of many retirees' annual income. Beyond the financial aspect, I found myself questioning the practicality of such a grand gesture so early in a relationship. According to financial planners specializing in retirement, unplanned large expenses are among the top reasons seniors deplete their savings faster than anticipated. In fact, a study from the Journal of Financial Planning found that new relationships were mentioned as a contributing factor in 27% of cases where retirees significantly deviated from their financial plans. What's particularly telling about this type of request is the inherent imbalance. When one person plans an extravagant experience that the other person pays for, it creates an unhealthy dynamic from the start. Healthy relationships involve mutual contribution, perhaps not always equal in dollar amount, but equal in sacrifice and commitment. When faced with such expectations, it's important to suggest alternatives that respect both parties' financial situations. Perhaps a weekend getaway instead of a month-long trip, or a shared expense model where both contribute according to their means. If your suggestion is met with disappointment or pressure, it may indicate misaligned values around money, a fundamental incompatibility in relationships at any age. Christine's third condition left me even more bewildered. She explained that if our trial cohabitation went well and we decided to marry, she would expect full control over our household finances. Specifically, she wanted me to hand over my retirement income, which she would then manage. She described her reasoning in practical terms. As a retired nurse, she believed she had the organizational skills and discipline to handle financial matters more efficiently. Each month, she would allocate me a small allowance for personal expenses, ensuring that the rest of the money was used responsibly for shared needs and future planning. She even added that if I overspent my allowance, I would have to make up for it by taking on additional household responsibilities, such as cleaning or cooking. This is warning sign number 3, one-sided financial control. While having one person handle bill payments or budgeting can be efficient in some relationships, complete control over another's finances, particularly their income, creates a dangerous power imbalance. This arrangement would effectively make me financially dependent on Christine, removing my autonomy over money I had spent a lifetime earning. Financial abuse is the most common form of elder abuse, yet remains underreported and often unrecognized by victims until it's too late. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has found that older adults who lose decision-making capacity over their finances face not only monetary losses, but also diminished self-worth and increased depression. What's particularly concerning is how such arrangements can evolve from reasonable division of responsibilities into control mechanisms. Even if Christine had no malicious intent, this arrangement would place me in a vulnerable position, dependent on her goodwill for accessing my own money. Healthy financial arrangements for older couples take many forms, but they all share key characteristics: transparency, mutual decision-making on major expenses, and personal autonomy for each partner. Many successful couples maintain separate accounts for personal spending while sharing a joint account for household expenses. Others pool everything but ensure both partners have equal access and regular financial discussions. As Christine began outlining her final condition, I could feel my patience wearing thin, though I did my best to remain polite and attentive. She explained that even if we moved in together or got married, she would require us to maintain completely separate bedrooms. She elaborated that after over a decade of living on her own following her divorce, She had grown accustomed to having her own space. Sharing a room or a bed, she claimed, would disrupt her sleep and make her feel crowded. This represents warning sign number 4. Extreme boundaries and non-negotiable demands. Let me be clear, having separate bedrooms isn't inherently problematic. Many happy couples sleep separately for various reasons, from different sleep schedules to medical conditions. According to the National Sleep Foundation, nearly 25% of couples over 65 sleep in separate rooms and report high relationship satisfaction. What made this a warning sign wasn't the separate bedroom request itself, but the rigid, non-negotiable way it was presented alongside her other demands. Healthy relationships involve give and take, with both partners willing to discuss, compromise, and find solutions that work for both parties. Christine's conditions were presented as ultimatums. Take it or leave it. When someone presents a series of non-negotiable demands before a relationship has even begun, it often signals an unwillingness to compromise that will extend to other areas of life. Relationships require flexibility, especially as we age and face new challenges like health issues or changing family dynamics. Appropriate boundaries are essential in any relationship, but there's a difference between healthy boundaries that protect your well-being and rigid rules that primarily serve to control the relationship's terms. Healthy boundaries are discussed and mutually agreed upon. They aren't dictated by one person to another. As Christine finished explaining her 4 conditions, I realized how disconnected her vision of a relationship was from my own. I had come into this meeting hoping to find a genuine connection, someone to share quiet moments, mutual respect, and the simple joys of life with. Instead, I found myself listening to a detailed list of requirements that made me feel more like a business partner than a potential companion. Understanding motivations and establishing healthy expectations. While Christine's demands seemed unreasonable to me, I've since wondered about the experiences that might have shaped her approach to relationships. Often, controlling behaviors stem from past wounds or betrayals. Perhaps Christine had been financially exploited in a previous relationship, or maybe she had watched friends lose their security after diving too quickly into new relationships. Understanding the psychology behind such demands doesn't mean accepting them, but it can help us respond to compassion rather than judgment. According to relationship psychologists, people who create rigid rules often do so out of fear. Fear of being hurt again, fear of losing control, or fear of making the same mistakes. The irony is that these protective measures often prevent the very connections they're seeking. How can we distinguish between reasonable caution and unhealthy control? The key lies in flexibility and mutuality. Reasonable precautions protect both parties equally and remain open to discussion. Controlling demands typically benefit one person at the other's expense and are presented as non-negotiable. For example, a reasonable approach to finances might be, I've been hurt financially in past relationships. Could we keep our money separate initially and discuss major financial decisions together? This protects both people while leaving room for the relationship to evolve. In contrast, you need to give me $20,000 and let me control your income places all the power with one person. This brings us to a crucial aspect of dating in our senior years, how to establish healthy expectations and boundaries. The most important conversations happen early, but they should feel like mutual explorations rather than interviews or ultimatums. Financial discussions are particularly important for seniors, as we typically have more complex financial situations and less time to recover from financial setbacks. However, these conversations need not be awkward or confrontational. They can begin with general values around money. I've always believed in living within my means. How do you approach spending and saving? This opens the door to deeper discussions as trust builds. Many successful senior couples find that legal protections like cohabitation agreements or prenuptial agreements actually enhance their relationship by removing financial anxiety. These documents aren't signs of distrust, but practical tools that protect both parties' interests, especially when adult children and inheritances are involved. As one happily remarried 72-year-old client told his financial advisor, "Our prenup didn't kill romance. It made us both feel secure enough to fully commit." For those re-entering the dating world after 60, finding safe and effective ways to meet potential partners is another challenge. The landscape has changed dramatically, with online dating now accounting for over 35% of new relationships among seniors. While this offers opportunities, it also presents risks. Background checks have become increasingly common, with specialized services designed specifically for seniors. Far from being intrusive, these checks can provide peace of mind. Similarly, taking time to verify information through mutual connections or professional networks isn't being paranoid. It's being prudent. Family and friends can play vital roles in this process. My daughter Sarah, for instance, initially encouraged me to date, but later became my sounding board, asking questions I hadn't considered and offering perspectives I might have missed. Many successful later life relationships involve some level of vetting by trusted family members, not for approval but for additional insight. The lessons I've taken from my experience with Christine have profoundly shaped my approach to dating. Perhaps the most important is learning to trust my instincts. We accumulate wisdom through decades of life experience, yet often discount our gut feelings when they conflict with our desires or hopes. In my case, the knot in my stomach during Christine's list of demands wasn't just discomfort with new ideas. It was a warning system honed by 65 years of human interaction telling me something wasn't right. When I got home that afternoon and reflected on our meeting, the clarity that emerged wasn't just about Christine's unreasonable expectations. It was about what I truly valued in relationships: mutual respect, organic development of trust, and genuine care for each other's well-being. Many seniors compromise on these core values out of fear that opportunities for connection are limited as we age. This scarcity mindset can lead us to accept treatment we would never have tolerated in our younger years. But here's a truth I've come to embrace. Being alone doesn't have to mean being lonely. With community involvement, meaningful activities, and self-care, solitude can be peaceful and fulfilling. A mismatched relationship, on the other hand, can bring more isolation and misery than being on your own. After my experience with Christine, I developed a personal action plan for future dating. A framework based not on rigid rules, but on clarity about my own values and boundaries. I created a list of my non-negotiable values: mutual respect, financial independence, and organic relationship progression. These aren't demands I present to potential partners, but internal guidelines that help me recognize compatibility. I also developed a mental list of questions to explore during early dates, not as an interrogation, but as topics to naturally discuss. How do they talk about past relationships? What are their expectations for the pace of a new relationship? How do they handle disagreements? These questions help me understand a person's approach to relationships without creating an awkward interview atmosphere. Just as important as recognizing warning signs is identifying positive indicators. Consistency between words and actions, respect for differences of opinion, willingness to compromise, and appropriate pacing all signal healthy relationship potential. I've learned to pay attention to how I feel in someone's presence, energized and appreciated, or drained and anxious. A reasonable relationship progression in our senior years might look different than in youth, but certain principles remain important. Time is still needed to build genuine trust. Emotional intimacy should develop before significant financial entanglement. Major life changes like moving in together deserve careful consideration, not rushed decisions. The role of community and social support cannot be overstated in our senior years. Research consistently shows that older adults with diverse social connections report higher life satisfaction than those whose social world revolves entirely around one relationship. Maintaining friendships, Family ties and community involvement provides both emotional richness and a valuable reality check when we're dating. Since my experience with Christine, I've become more involved in my community center's activities for seniors, joining a weekly book club and a gardening group. These connections not only enrich my life, but provide opportunities to meet like-minded people in natural settings rather than the sometimes artificial environment of designated dates. Many of you might be wondering, are there success stories? Is finding genuine connection after 60 really possible? Absolutely. I'm inspired by couples like my friends Eleanor and Robert, who met at a community volunteer event at 68 and 72, respectively. They took things slowly, maintained their separate homes for 2 years while dating, and now share a life filled with travel, grandchildren, and deep companionship. They negotiated financial arrangements that respected both their needs and those of their adult children, creating a blended family that works beautifully. The recovery period after a negative dating experience varies for everyone. For me, it took about 3 months before I felt ready to consider meeting someone new. During that time, I reflected on the experience not as a failure, but as valuable information that helped clarify what I want and don't want in a relationship. Maintaining optimism while being realistic is perhaps the greatest challenge in senior dating. We've lived long enough to know that not every story has a happy ending, yet hope remains essential. I've found that framing dating as an opportunity for connection rather than a quest to find the one removes much of the pressure and disappointment. In conclusion, let me summarize the 4 warning signs we discussed today. First, beware of early financial commitment demands. Any request for significant money early in a relationship deserves serious scrutiny. Second, be cautious of extravagant spending expectations. Healthy relationships involve balanced contributions and respect for each other's financial boundaries. Third, never surrender financial control. Maintain autonomy over your assets and income, regardless of how convenient combined management might seem. Finally, be wary of rigid, non-negotiable demands. Healthy relationships involve compromise and mutual consideration. My experience with Christine, while disappointing at the moment, ultimately became a gift, a clear lesson in what to avoid and what to seek in companionship during our golden years. Whether you're currently dating, considering entering the dating world, or supporting a loved one who is, I hope these insights help you navigate this journey with confidence and wisdom. Remember that your lifetime of experiences has given you invaluable intuition. Trust it. Your financial security matters. Protect it. And your golden years deserve genuine companionship based on mutual respect, not transactions or power imbalances. I'd love to hear your experiences or questions in the comments below. Have you encountered similar warning signs? What strategies have helped you navigate dating after 60? Please share your wisdom. We're all learning together on this journey. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content designed for those of us embracing life's later chapters with optimism and practical wisdom. Thank you for joining me today. Here's to living well at every age.